Welcome to our Career Fair Bootcamp Employer Panel discussion today. We are so excited for you to join us virtually. Please remember, this session will be being recorded and we invite you to submit questions throughout the session into the chat, with the understanding that we will save student questions for the end. Today, we have an employer panel to give us a glimpse into changes in our current virtual world and attending career fairs. I would now like to turn it over to our moderator, Quasi.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it on day 4 of Career Week here at Harrisburg University. My name is Kwasi Abrokwa, and my role here at Harrisburg University is I am the executive recruiter, and I, alongside with my colleague Ellen Garcia, who is the HR director at Harrisburg University, will be moderating today's panel with our employers. So to start things off, what we'll do first is we'll have each employer introduce themselves, their title, and what their company or organization represents. And then from there, we'll begin our questions. So I'll start with asking Mike Williams.
Yeah, so my name is Jessica Henning. I am the Director of Selection and Development with Northwestern Mutual. And Northwestern Mutual is a financial planning firm who is currently accepting internships.
Mike, you'd just like to give a brief introduction of yourself as far.
Thank you. My name's Randy McCarty. I'm with Clark Associates. It's headquartered in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I actually am in charge of their charitable foundation, but because the company has been growing so quickly, I've been asked to work with colleges and universities in establishing relationships and helping everyone understand what we do. Clark Associates is a company that supports the food service industry. We are not a production company, but actually a distribution company. So distributing supplies and equipment to the restaurant industry and food service industry is what we do.
Sure. So my name is Liz Brinley. I'm a talent acquisition manager with Enterprise Holdings. Specifically, I support the hiring and recruiting efforts in central Pennsylvania. Enterprise Holdings, the transportation company. Most people know Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and that's primarily who we hire into with our entry-level management trainee program.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Mike. Let's try Jessica.
So my name is Jennifer Boisvert. I am a recruiter with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth employs over 70,000 people in a wide variety of job titles ranging from healthcare to food service. We've got engineers, maintenance trades, quite a variety. So I've been with the Commonwealth 17 years, and I love sharing the experience, what it's like to work with the Commonwealth and helping people come on board and have that sense of satisfaction of public service for themselves. So I absolutely enjoy sharing all I have with any of the attendees today.
Hey, sorry about that technical glitch earlier. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Williams. I'm the Vice President of Professional Services at Appalachian Technologies. We're located in Mechanicsburg. We are a smaller IT professional services firm. Our sweet spots are cybersecurity, managed services, and cloud services.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Jessica. Moving along, we'll go to Randy. Thank you very much. Elizabeth, if you don't mind chiming in, thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much, Liz. We appreciate that. Jennifer, if you don't mind chiming in. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Mike Williams. Fantastic. And we're very happy to have you all here with us today. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for Career Week. So as we
Yeah, I used to spend more time on campuses. So it has shifted to LinkedIn and focusing on connecting with people, getting better at searching LinkedIn. So my biggest recommendation for those who are looking for an internship or career is look at your LinkedIn profile. Are you following the companies that you have interest in? Are you connecting with people there? Are you networking online, which I know can be difficult, but focusing on your LinkedIn profile can be a great way to stand out to employers.
At the question portion of the panel.
Well, just like Jessica, everything is virtual now, so I would just advise students to explore on campus and through any resources that you might have. Take advantage of the things that are offered. I'm finding too often that students are overlooking virtual events. And it may be because we're just getting fatigued with all of the virtual environment. But that's the only way we can connect with students right now. We're not able to get to campuses, although we'd like to. So my advice would be just take advantage of any and every networking opportunity, despite the fact that they are now virtual.
Who are joining us will have many questions to ask. We're going to try to get through the questions as much as possible, but when I say get through the question, I mean get through the question with the employer.
Or internships as well. Yeah, and to Randy's point, we're definitely understand that fatigue is there, but I think one of the things that being in this virtual environment has allowed us to do as recruiters is to maybe say yes to more events, because we don't have that travel time. We don't have, doing an event that's going to take us out of the office for only 2 hours is, something we're able to say yes to, that maybe before we say, gosh, that's a whole day, we're not able to make it. So definitely, I've definitely over the past, year have been able to broaden my scope of events I've been able to attend, or connecting with different clubs on campus that maybe in the past was a little bit of a challenge. So
as much as possible. So any questions you may have will be saved. So towards
Well, I definitely can echo everything that everyone's saying. We've definitely moved to the virtual job fair platforms. We're not seeing the attendees, not like you would at an on-site. So what I will tell you is, by attending a virtual job fair, you are going to get a little bit more one-on-one. You're going to get that time to talk to someone. On sites, we would sometimes be talking to groups of people, which is nice for us, but sometimes I can't, an attendee doesn't get that one-on-one. They want your attention. So absolutely attend those virtual job fairs. And also do some research. We're using a lot more of job boards, any type of free posting boards online. We're out there on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'd have to echo, absolute great resource. We're on there every day, headhunting, looking at resumes. We're checking out your credentials against what we're looking for. So definitely, everybody had great things to say. So I definitely emphasize everything that's been provided.
And we'll try to answer those questions as they come in as best and as quickly as possible. So to start things off with question number one, which is a very popular and a hot topic right now, it asks that how has recruiting changed during the pandemic from the employer's perspective. So,
Thanks. Well, from my perspective, it's not a whole lot different, except for the facts already been mentioned. They're very personalized. You know, many times you are literally one-on-one in your virtual environment, which is different than a career fair where there's lots of people around and we have distractions. With a virtual event, they have my total attention. And so my recommendation would be prepared. We are not intimidating. None of us are intimidating. So if you have to push yourself to do that, push yourself, be prepared. But as far as what to expect, you can expect just like what we're doing right now. Very friendly conversation, very personal. What's going to get you far with us is being yourself, being prepared, being enthusiastic. Hopefully I'm answering your question.
Start things off, I'll come back to Jessica, if you don't mind answering that question. How has recruiting changed for you since during this time in the pandemic?
The recruiting landscape for myself. So I definitely encourage, like Randy said, to, as a student, say yes to some of these events, take that extra, maybe, 30, 45 minutes. You don't know who you're going to be able to connect with there. So that's probably been the biggest change that I've seen over the past year. Yeah, I think that, like Randy said, you have our undivided attention, which is, a nice opportunity to really ask some questions and really get to know the company, get to know that, the recruiter and maybe what the environment's going to look like. I also encourage, in terms of the virtual platform, it's not just the recruiting in terms.
Randy, would you like to add anything to that topic or that question? I think we can all agree that there's...
The one thing I would add to is that don't be afraid to click into a booth. If you're not sure, go in, introduce yourself, and let them know your field of interest. I find that the lack of attendees, sometimes it's not specific to the fair, it's specific to an employer. They look at you and they're intimidated, or they don't really know what you have to offer, so they're hesitant. I encourage you, click into everything, learn about all the employers. The more you learn, the more you educate about yourself, about what's out there, you're opening yourself up to more possibilities and more opportunities.
When it comes to virtual meetings or just any type of virtual events that's taken place over the last year. So you hit the nail on the head with that one, Randy. Liz, would you like to add anything to that as well? Excellent. Thank you very much. Jennifer, I'm sure you probably have something to add to that as well, if you'd like. Great feedback. Thank you very much. And it kind of leads into our next question, which talks about virtual events or virtual fairs for that matter. And for a lot of our students, this may be their first time attending a virtual event.
Yeah, this may sound a little bit silly, but be aware of your background. Since you don't have your physical presence, it's important to look behind you. And I'm not saying have a blank space, but have your background define a little bit more of who you are, since the people you're interviewing with don't have that physical presence. Your background can say a lot about you. What's most important to you that you may not have a chance to mention in the interview. So be aware of that background.
So I guess the question is, what could you, offer them, and what could they expect when attending these virtual events or these virtual?
I would. Look, whether it's a virtual fair, whether it's a phone conversation, whether it's a text message, it's all communications. And I think you'll find that communication is probably the most important aspect of any of our jobs. Right? We all can be smart technically and have all these other skills, but if we can't communicate effectively, that's going to hamper your ability to do things. So treat this as just another opportunity to communicate with other human beings. In the question itself, it's how to be best prepared. You need to be the one to prepare yourself for this thing, right? I would practice your rap in front of a mirror. I would practice it in front of friends and have them critique it. I know it might sound silly and it might feel embarrassing at first, but believe me, there is gold in having a presentation and a conversation that flows. I would also say, if you can, understand the tool that you're going to be using before the virtual fair. Is it Zoom? Is it Teams? And maybe go online and get a look at the interface and get a feel for where would I mute? Where would I do certain feature functionality so it's not clunky? And I agree with what Jessica said as well. Backgrounds, I know it may seem like a small thing, but it's an important thing. So I would have whatever's behind you be in good taste.
I'll start with Randy. Go for it. All those points make perfect sense. Absolutely. I think, and I'm seeing the smiles from the panel. They're echoing your sentiment with that as well. So, Liz, do you want to add something to that also? And Jen, I'll come to you. Would you like to add anything to that topic also before we move on?
I would add is I would recommend, if you can see the list of employers attending the virtual job fair, review them and see what their backgrounds are, what they employ, those types of things, only because you want to make sure to hit those employers that hire in your job title and your career field before you go to the additional attendees. You want to make sure you take advantage of those that you believe could be the most beneficial to you.
Jennifer, I'm not sure. Fantastic. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. So to that point, I think the one thing that leads into our next question is, how do you prepare for a virtual interview? I think a lot of us are used to having the phone screen, the phone interviews. Then, of course, the next round being the in-person interview. But in this day and age with the pandemic, pretty much all this has been done virtually.
Of the connection, but also interviews are virtual now. So career fairs and virtual events can be a nice way to kind of practice being in that virtual environment in a professional, setting. Most, students, I'm sure, are very used to being in a virtual classroom, but that one-on-one can be a little bit different. So utilizing those opportunities to really refine some of those skills, it's a really nice place to kind of get some practice being in that one-on-one setting with, someone that you would like to hopefully interview with in the future. Sure. So, when I think of an elevator pitch, I'm thinking kind of that introduction, maybe in a virtual recruiting event or, in person in a networking event. And it should really be kind of a short, maybe 30-second introduction into really who you are and, who you want to be. So when I kind of work with students or people in my own company coming up with an elevator pitch, I like to kind of think about it in 3 separate sections. So maybe, your past, who you are now, and what you're looking for, so you can kind of say, I'm, a student, at X university. I'm currently majoring in marketing.
Performs better in person versus doing something virtually. So are there any tips?
Sure. Look, you have a small window here, right? So you need to be concise. You need to come across as genuine and confident. So I agree. Who are you? You know, what do you want to do? And why do you feel like you're the right person? And look, you know, some of you aren't going to necessarily be comfortable out of the gate in those types of conversations, and it's fair. We all had to start somewhere, and you know, you build that skill set as you know, you progress in your career. So if you're not quite confident, prepare. Again, back to what we said earlier. And look, some of you, I'm sure, have a gift of gab. You were born with it, and it's a beautiful thing. But you just need to make sure that if you have that gift, that you come across as confident and maybe not cocky, for lack of a better term, right? There's a fine line between those two things. And those of us that like to talk sometimes might talk a little too much. Don't forget it's an elevator pitch.
That you might offer to a person when it comes to conducting or participating in
What's been said so far is great. Just like Mike, we use the word humble at Clark Associates. You know, be confident, but be humble at the same time. The only other thing I would suggest, Liz did a great job of giving the overview. It's going to be generic, your elevator pitch, but you might want to be prepared also to tweak it, just like I recommend tweaking your cover letters and your resumes to throw in a little bit, if you've done your research, that connect what you're saying to that particular company, so that it becomes a little more personalized. So, no, I agree with what everyone else has said. Thank you.
virtual interview or having a panel interview that's done virtually as well. Benefit them to be successful in those moments. Jessica, would you like to start with that? I'm sure we could all share some stories of the not so pleasant backgrounds we've seen when it comes to those virtual interviews, but we'll save that for another day, another conversation. Mike, would you like to add to that as well? And to your point, Mike, something that I think we all understand.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is that when you pop onto the video, you're engaged, you're looking. I always like to tell people to look at the person you're talking at versus I feel like sometimes our eyes can go to ourselves on the video, but look either at the camera or at the person you're talking to. And so be engaged and show that you did your research on the company. I think like Jennifer said, if you can see what employers are attending, do that research, be specific about the booths you're going to and say, hey, here's what I know about you. I'm really excited to talk with you. Whether you have a bubbly personality or you're stoic, it doesn't matter. That level of engagement can show throughout anything.
Should be mentioned is the fact of testing your technology before you actually have the virtual event is critical. I think oftentimes we assume that it'll work flawlessly, and then at the day of or the moment of, we realize, oh, I realized I didn't.
I would definitely say your attitude, your enthusiasm, your tone comes through. So if someone approaches me or connects with me on one-on-one in a virtual job fair, I can tell how engaged they are with our company. Are they already interested? How much do they want to know? Are they asking questions? All those items tell me whether or not you're truly engaged in the discussion and with our opportunities. The other thing I would say is too, the preparation. Did you come with, if it's an on-site job fair, it would be a resume in hand. In the virtual platforms, a lot of them allow you to attach a resume so that as I'm having a conversation with you, I'm reviewing your resume so that I can make the discussion more beneficial to both of us. So, I mean, did you do your work? You know, I'm doing mine as we're sitting there talking. If you did your prep work, I'll be able to tell.
Microphone on my laptop or some other feature may get in the
Sure. I mean, everything everybody said was really, really good feedback. I would make sure that when you're doing this, you're limiting any distractions as much as possible. Get your phone out of your room, right? Like it shouldn't be ringing during the session. If you have dogs, kids, any of those other things, we all love them. But I know it's part of our new virtual reality, but this is an important thing for you, right? And you have a window here in which to convey who you are and what you're all about. So I would try to limit as many of those types of distractions as possible.
Way of you being successful during your interview. So all those things should be tested ahead of time just to make sure that you're able to be as successful as possible in those spaces. So excellent job. Would anyone else like to add to that point? Jennifer or Randy? I'll say Jennifer first. Excellent point. Excellent point. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. Okay, moving along. Moving right along to our next question. It says, in terms of the elevator pitch often used in a professional workplace, but it's often something that young professionals or students have not heard of.
Thanks, Quasi. I find myself sitting here and just so engaged in all of your answers. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I would say if I were on the panel. So it's good to know that we're all in some sort of alignment with each other of, what we are expecting in this new virtual world in which we're working. So my first question back to the panel, it's possible that you're not going to have enough time to interact with every student during a virtual fair. So do you have any recommendations that you would give to students or young graduates in regards to their efforts in contacting you or your company if they did not get a chance to connect with you during the virtual fair? And Randy, if you want to start us off.
It probably varies from company to company and what they're willing to allow or accept. Our company is, our recruiters are willing to talk to you afterwards. So I would encourage if you have the opportunity to share information, and we will get back to them. Have personal conversations if it's necessary, or through LinkedIn or even through company email, school email. So I think that probably is going to be a little bit different from company to company, but don't be afraid to check on that and to provide contact information or ask for that contact information. And I would also then, as far as following up, probably for me anyway, and for our people, the sooner you do it, the better, because we tend to be involved with many of these virtual events. As Liz has said, we're taking advantage of a lot more events. So you want to be fresh in our minds, and I would follow up fairly quickly if you do want to speak some more.
Liz, do you want to add anything from Enterprise's standpoint?
Is to work in a social media marketing company. Just a kind of a little introduction there, so that person knows kind of, what are you looking to get out of that connection, and the tidbits that you're giving in that little, kind of 30-second intro should really kind of pique their interest to want to ask more questions, to want to figure out, okay, what can I offer this person in terms of that networking opportunity there. Definitely recommend, kind of practicing that. It can feel a little bit uncomfortable and awkward, when you first start with that networking. But the more you refine it, writing it down, talking about it, it'll really help you become more natural. And in those events, hopefully we'll be in person sooner rather than later, but you'll really be able to kind of take advantage of those networking opportunities to build really strong connections to help with your further career. Yeah, I think, to Randy's point, you don't know until you ask.
Jessica, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would echo everything Liz and Randy shared, and then add, when you do reach out, be cognizant to check your email then 1 or 2 times a day. I think we've had experiences where it takes a few days to hear back from students. So I would really encourage you, whether it's setting an alarm on your phone, just as a reminder to check your email. That's the best and easiest way we're communicating nowadays.
Mike, do you have something that you'd also like to share?
Sure. I mean, the panelists, the responses were fantastic. But at the heart of each and every one of them, guys, it's about initiative, right? And that's an intangible thing that we're all looking for in prospective employees, right? So if you didn't get your opportunity to speak to somebody, take the initiative, be confident, and go for it, right? Worst case, the door's closed. Best case, you get a conversation. But regardless, the fact that you've taken that initiative is just going to give you more confidence to continue to do those types of things.
Jennifer, any last words of wisdom on this topic?
Honestly, everything everyone has said has been spot on. Definitely reach out, grab information, whether it's just you got to see the booth and you can go to the website and do a little research. There's always contact information out on the website. Even if you don't have a person's name, you'll find something out there, whether it's a resource account to ask questions. But a lot of the virtual events do allow you to get the contact information for the recruiter who's manning that booth. So I encourage you, grab that information. Definitely send those emails. Honestly, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk to you about the opportunities. We're here to get you more information. But before you reach out, maybe even do a little research about our company now that you have the information on hand, so that you know exactly what type of information you'd like to gather from us when you send that email, so that we can provide you exactly what you're looking for.
It's a great segue into the next question, because if we're encouraging everyone to reach out, if they didn't get a chance to connect with you during the virtual fair, and we're saying email us, are there certain things that you'd really like to see in the email that you're receiving that gives you a better indication of the direction that a potential candidate is headed, and if they might be a good fit or not for you? Liz, do you want to take that one?
Completely appropriate to, reach out if you have the recruiter's information, if you contact them through LinkedIn and ask and say, I unfortunately wasn't able to connect with you at the fair, but I'd love to learn some more. Is there time we can schedule to speak? I know myself with Enterprise, I'm always more than happy to try to schedule some time if we couldn't connect at a specific event. So it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst that they say is unfortunately no, but at least you've put yourself out there. I think another great tool to use is, utilize the connections you have on your college campus. Contact your career services office and say, I was really interested in connecting with Enterprise, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. Can you give me a good contact?
And Jen?
Everything said there, and I would definitely, if you ever even think for 1 second of not following up, rethink that. Absolutely follow up. I know from our end, candidates who definitely, met what we were looking for, we're following up. So if we're what you're looking for, definitely contact us, talk with us, help us develop that relationship with you so that we can get you where you want to be.
Script here, but Jessica, is there anything that you would share with our audience that you would say, please avoid adding this to your email to the recruiter?
Please avoid getting our name wrong. You don't know how many times I've gotten an email from a student where I've been called Jennifer instead of Jessica. I'm not sure. I mean, Jays, I understand. But so attention to detail is really important when you're sending an email. Review it before you send it out. That would be a big thing for me.
Is there anything that you would suggest avoiding including in an email?
Well, although we would want it to be friendly, I would avoid being less than formal. I would try to use language that's very appropriate. And again, check your spelling, make sure, not just Jessica and Jennifer, but, make sure that the language is appropriate, because you're speaking with professionals, not your roommate. So you just want to read it over. And sometimes, Mike spoke this earlier, practice and have someone check it out before you send it. Not that you're not capable, but maybe another person's eye on your email might be appropriate, just so that you can be really confident that it's sending the message you want it to send.
How about you, Mike? Anything else that you'd like to add on what to maybe avoid putting into an email to a recruiter?
Sure. And I also want to hit the how long should it take for a student to follow up based on the engagement thing. So for me, and guys, look, I'm not a recruiter per se. We certainly we hire people all the time, but it may be a little different in my world compared to the other panelists. The one thing I would say is when you follow up, I wouldn't want to follow up with a salary question out of the gate. How much could I make in this position, right? Like, there's a time for that conversation. It's not then. And for me, when I meet a prospective candidate and we've had a good conversation, and you're going to follow up, my style is I love a response within one business day. Quite frankly, it tells me that you're interested and that you want to take this to another level. 2 days probably for me is max, and I completely agree. If there's no response back, that's a really big red flag in my world. So respond back.
Since we're on the topic of emails, I've heard a lot of people in my experience working with younger employees say, I don't really email very much. That's not my preferred form of communication. Does anyone on the panel have a response to that from your business standpoint? Jessica, you had a nice smile on your face when I mentioned that. Do you have an idea?
I live on my email. I think at some point when we have, people coming into the career or the internship, I am like, hey, here's my cell phone number. Feel free to text me. But at the beginning stages, definitely email. It's, I have a little girl, so during the day, it's a little bit crazy, but then at night, I can set everything aside and get back to emails for quite a few hours.
Liz, do you have anything to add about that?
Information. Your career services, they have great relationships. They're going to be able to point you in the right direction, hopefully find you that contact that's going to really give you that introduction into the company. So if you're unsure of who you should be reaching out to from a company, I think career services is definitely a great place to really start having that conversation to find the right person. Sure. So I would say that when you're contacting a recruiter or somebody from a company, have a purpose with your email. As was just mentioned, doing a little bit of research before that contact really goes a long way. Sometimes it's hard from a recruiter's chair getting
back on track now to our questions, but I thought that was important follow-up information that we could share. Jennifer, can you take this next one? How has your interview process changed now that you have gone from the in-person interviews to the virtual interview process? We might have touched on some of these answers in previous questions, but has your formatting changed? The questions changed? Can you talk a little bit about how the process looks a little different now?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, when possible, we do all virtual interviews. So the Commonwealth uses a lot of Microsoft Teams so that you do get to see, get to have some face-to-face contact, see the reaction, see the candidate. So we are doing that. It actually has been nice as far as scheduling as well, because it's the platform's been a little nicer for the candidates. They get to take a look at what's available, schedule what works for them. Questions don't change. It's still the same caliber of question, just a different platform.
Great, thank you. Randy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Add to that, really, our interviews have not changed structurally, except for moving to a virtual platform. And fortunately, a lot of them are actually now transitioning back to in person. But when we are virtual, the questions are the same. The formality is the same. The dress is the same. The expectations are the same. The one piece that really is important, it's already been mentioned, but in preparation, our hiring managers really expect them to be prepared with questions. If they're not prepared with questions, they are left thinking their perspective as an employer is that they're not really that interested if they don't have questions. So I know this is a little bit off topic, but in preparing for an interview, particularly us, and I have heard this from many, many other employers, be prepared with questions, and not, like Mike said, with the salary, not a salary question, but an inquisitive, smart question about something that will show them that you're interested in their company.
Thank you so much. How about you, Jessica? Anything you'd like to add?
Agree with the questions part. Show that you did your research and that you want to know more by asking those inquisitive questions.
Liz and Mike, I'm going to shift it just a little bit to you guys. Since the candidate can't come to your business and get a feel of what it's like to be on your campuses or on your property, what do you encourage them to do so that they can get a sense of who you are and if it'd be a good fit for them?
Tell me more about your company.
Liz, do you want to start us off?
Or can you tell me, what are you hiring for? So kind of knowing, what, most companies are do a lot of things and have different positions. So kind of figuring out, what are you interested in will really help the recruiter kind of direct that conversation and really provide you with information that's going to be pertinent to you. So again, that kind of that research before and then being specific with what you're hoping to gain from that connection, that's really going to help that recruiter to get you what you're looking for and to really help you take something away from that contact. Yeah, I think in terms of communication, you need to kind of follow the lead of the recruiter or the person that you're contacting from the company. So much like Jessica, we use a texting system. So I'm okay with somebody responding to a text message if I've sent them. But if I'm sending emails or if I'm calling you and leaving voicemails, I expect this same type of communication to be reciprocated. So if I leave you a voicemail, don't text me back.
And Mike, can you speak to that point as well?
Sure, I agree with everything Elizabeth said. Look, this is your opportunity to try to get to know us. You're interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you, and that needs to be your mindset. You don't want to, again, you want to be humble. I'll use what Randy said earlier. You want to be humble in that endeavor, but ask questions. One of the biggest questions that I love prospective candidates to ask is, what's our culture like at Appalachia? Right? It's a big thing these days, right? I mean, culture's this, I know it's a buzzword, but it is so important to your existence within that company. So get to understand those things. Is the company involved in anything in the community? Are there things that they do for educational purposes, training, certifications, any of those types of things? I would also, honestly, I would love for you to tell me something about the company. I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed that said, well, what do you want to know about Appalachia? Have you been out to the website? Well, no, I haven't been out to the website. That's not the right answer. You want to be out at the website. You want to find out as much. And I'll give you a small example. I had a candidate tell us, congratulate us for winning Best Places to Work, which was phenomenal. Of course, we're happy about that, and it was nice that they acknowledged it, but it was nice that they did the research to know that.
Great, thank you. So we have one more question on our set of questions, and then we'll move over to the questions that are being posed from our audience. So folks out there, if you're going to ask questions, now's the time to get those out there so we can make sure that we don't miss your questions before our time wraps up. But my last question, so with so much of the world going remote, there's been an increase of issues attached to poor internet connections or decreased bandwidth or lack of access to webcams because there's a shortage now of them available. How have you kind of adjusted or accommodated working with candidates who might be facing some of those challenges during the pandemic where otherwise maybe they wouldn't have been facing those issues? And Randy, do you want to start us off?
I don't know that I have a best answer for that, except to say that we try to accommodate for the needs of everyone that makes the time to try to connect with us. I know I was on with one of the other schools. I was at a career fair, and the students, we just couldn't get the audio on. So I gave him my cell phone number. He called my cell phone. We're talking cell phone to cell phone, and we have the video going on. We do what we can. I think the thing is knowing what you have available, knowing, Mike mentioned this earlier, being prepared, just knowing the obstacles that you might be up against, and kind of anticipating so that you don't get cut off unexpectedly. And that's, you don't do it intentionally, but it tends to be a bit rude sometimes, or it comes across that way.
Have the visual cues and knowing when someone's about ready to talk. And I know that when Quasi and I first met on a phone call for the first interview, we both stumbled about who's going to talk next, and I didn't mean to talk over you. It does make it kind of interesting. Jennifer, do you have anything you want to add of how you've made some accommodations for candidates?
In virtual job fairs where things just don't work, and it happens to all of us. I mean, it could happen to any one of us on the panel right now today. And the best thing I've learned is I just make sure they have my contact information. As a recruiter, I find that my job is to be available for you. Email, phone, it's all on all my contacts is always available to everyone, whether it's, the profile on the platform that I'm doing the virtual job fair. My email provides all the different methods you can reach me. But there again, I will revisit. For me, email is best. You give me if you place a phone call, I could be in a meeting and I can't take that call. So it's much easier for me if you send an email, because as I'm available, I can go through those and answer those. And I am able to look at what you're asking or what information you're after, and definitely focus in on what your questions are and what your interests are. And I prefer to do that. I prefer to focus on the candidate, the applicant. I want to get them the details they want. So I just go back again and emphasize email.
Mike, do you have anything you'd like to add about any challenges that you faced with your candidates and how you've helped accommodate them?
Well, I do, and look, guys, I was challenged on this call, right? My audio cut out, my screen froze, and I couldn't handle the initial introduction. So all you can do is roll with that. Things are going to happen. Know that out of the gate. It's how you handle those things that really matters. We understand it's glitchy. The technology isn't quite there. Bandwidth might not be there. In the event that we can't connect, most of us have a phone. If we do, and it's an iPhone, we can still FaceTime, right? We can still get that face-to-face. And if all else fails, we can converse over email or just the regular phone. The important part is that we're having the conversation. We don't necessarily need to have the visual to have that.
So we do have some student questions popping up that I'd like for us to switch over to, if you don't mind. The first question that we have: what are some upcoming career fairs your company is planning to participate in during this semester? Liz?
I'm looking for that phone call there. So I think that's kind of a good rule of thumb, is to really follow the lead of the recruiter. When in doubt, I think email is probably the most professional way to start off that communication. But again, just take the lead of the recruiter before you just decide to start texting or people. Sure. Well, with Enterprise, we've actually, we have a multi-step interview process. So we've put part of our interview process virtually, but we have kept that in-person observation piece. For our company, we feel it's really important that candidates get that feel, like you just said, what's the environment they're really going to work in? What does that look like? What does a typical day look like? And,
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would echo what Liz shared. We'll be at any college fair or career fair that's happening. We're lucky to have offices all across the country, so our recruiters are all over it.
I'm trying to be cognizant of our time, and I want to try to get through the questions, so I'm going to keep moving. We might not get all 5 panelists to be able to respond. If you have something, though, that you want to add that hasn't been shared in a response, just please, by all means, hop on. Don't wait for me to call upon you, because I don't want to miss anything. So question 2, this is a little more specific, and it might be a little more personalized per recruiter. But how long should an email be when reaching out to a recruiter? Should the candidate take a paragraph to talk about him or herself? Jessica, do you want to start us off?
I mean, I would say probably a paragraph to 2 is the most appropriate. We get so many emails, it's hard to read a book, but you also don't want something that's too short. So I would say a paragraph or 2 is the most appropriate length.
Let's have a different response. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with the length. A paragraph or 2 is good, but I'm a bullet points guy. They're easier for me to read, and you're able, I think, to convey a little more maybe than you are in a paragraph, right? Paragraphs can get wordy. And, also, if you're writing paragraphs, make sure your grammar's tight, make sure your spelling's tight, like all of those things. Again, it's another window it's a window for us into your world. So I like bullet points. They're kind of concise. You can get your points across, and it reads well.
Question 3. With more companies working from home versus in person, when do you see going back to work in person? And this might be dependent, as they say in the question, manufacturing versus finance. Jennifer, do you want to start us off?
I'm working from home, as I believe most of us are. And the Commonwealth in general, though, we're wisely split between what we're doing and what we aren't doing. For example, our 24/7 facilities, they're all on site. They're providing healthcare, they're providing food service, they're providing custodial services. So our employees, they are on site. Our admin staff are more likely to be working from home. The Commonwealth has actually come out and said this will be, at least right now, through our current fiscal year, so through the end of June. But with that said, we're always adapting to the situation. At first we were going to telework for a month, then it was till the end of the year, then it varies, and it's continuing to change. And pretty much as far as it comes to working from home, I think the word of the day is be able to adapt to the change. That's the slogan right now.
It's very different than actually being
Randy, would you like to share your perspective?
Ours is very much like what Jennifer just described. We have cash and carry stores, so they're in full operation. We have warehouses, they're in full operation. Our e-commerce division, most of the office people and developers, the tech people are working remotely. But we're also doing a lot of hybrid work with office staff. Desk sharing now is becoming very popular. So the silver lining for us is that actually real estate is becoming easier. We thought as we're going to keep growing, that we would have to build new offices, and we're finding that we can actually bring more staff in and use the same space that we have. I know that's probably more information than you need, but we're in a hybrid kind of situation, and we're doing all different kinds of things. Just again, like Jennifer had shared.
We have about 5 minutes left, so I just want to stay on point here, and we have still a few questions. One of the questions is, I find it hard to do phone interviews because it's hard to know whose turn it is to talk, which we touched on a little bit ago. Do you have any recommendations about how to navigate this communication issue? Liz, do you want to provide some feedback?
Able to include that. We've obviously, changed what that looks like to make sure everyone is as safe and as healthy as possible, and really done all the proper precautions. But we've cared so much about that part of the interview that we've definitely kept it there. I have heard, from some colleagues that work with other companies that, they've offered candidates to maybe do an observation that typically they would get within an interview if the candidate is asking about that. So again, it can't hurt to ask. It can't hurt to say, is there a way for me to visit maybe for 15 minutes if it's going to be, an in-person job? So that's something that kind of unique that I heard, that I kind of like that, taking that initiative to say, is there a way for me, even though I can't be in the office, that I can kind of see where I would be working, what this would look like as I'm moving through the interview process. So Enterprise will be at pretty much every local four-year university in the spring semester, and as I kind of alluded to before, we've been really able to say yes to some unique opportunities.
Anyone else have anything to add? Just raise your hand. Nope. All right. When seeking recruitment, how can one best stand out despite not having any significant amount of experience yet, such as an individual looking for their first internship? So, and in fact, it makes me think that I might have skipped one of my questions earlier about making an impression. So good question, candidates out there, because you called me out on a question I was supposed to ask. How does one try to make a good impression? Is there some etiquette points that you would suggest them considering, yet still trying to stay authentic to themselves? Randy?
As far as experience, sometimes we overlook the fact that we've had experiences that we may not think, like volunteer experiences or things that we've done through our church or social organizations. So think about all the things that you're involved with and share those, because they are experiences that are just as valuable as a work experience, and show that you are a well-rounded person. As far as etiquette, just be personable, be polite, be humble.
Great, thank you. Jessica, anything that you'd like to add?
I would say, if you're still on campus, do some research about things that interest you, whether it's clubs or, the honors fraternities. Start doing some research about things on campus that you can get involved in that speak to you, because we love seeing that campus involvement.
So that was actually our last question that had been posed. Before we wrap things up, panelists, is there anything that you would like to add that maybe we didn't touch on during our questions that you think is imperative for our audience to hear? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the panelists of giving of your time, of your expertise. It's very, very helpful to get your perspective and to share that perspective with students and graduates. We encourage everyone to check out our events for the rest of the week. And thank you so much for attending today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.